blood streaming from his mouth. The eyes had no flinching in them. "That valley, Ishtat keep. Ishtat see us now. He see you." The last words he uttered with strange, almost uncanny emphasis. Grimwood, arm raised, fist clenched, about to repeat his terrible assault, paused suddenly. His arm sank to his side. What exactly stopped him he could never say. For one thing, he feared his own anger, feared that if he let himself go, he would not stop till he had killed, committed murder. He knew his own fearful temper and stood afraid of it. Yet it was not only that. The calm firmness of the redskin, his courage under pain, and something in the fixed and burning eyes arrested him. Was it also something in the words he had used? "Ishtat see you," that stung him into a queer caution midway in his violence? He could not say. He only knew that a momentary sense of awe came over him. He became unpleasantly aware of the enveloping forest, so still, listening in a kind of impenetrable, remorseless silence. This lonely wilderness, looking silently upon what might easily prove murder, laid a faint, inexplicable chill upon his raging blood. The hand dropped slowly to his side again. The fist unclenched itself. His breath came more evenly. "Look you here," he said, adopting without knowing it the local way of speech. "I ain't a bad man, though your going on do make a man damn tired. I'll give you another chance." His voice was sullen, but a new note in it surprised even himself. "I'll do that. You can have the night to think it over to, Shally. See? Talk it over with your—" He did not finish the sentence. Somehow the name of the redskin god refused to pass his lips. He turned away, flung himself into his blankets, and in less than 10 minutes, exhausted as much by his anger as by the day's hard going, he was sound asleep. The Indian, crouching beside the dying fire, had said nothing. Night held the woods. The sky was thick with stars. The life of the forest went about its business quietly, with that wondrous skill which millions of years had perfected. The redskin, so close to this skill that he instinctively used and borrowed from it, was silent, alert, and wise, his outline as inconspicuous as though he merged, like his four-footed teachers, into the mass of the surrounding bush. He moved perhaps, yet nothing new he moved. His wisdom, derived from that eternal ancient mother who from infinite experience makes no mistakes, did not fail him. His soft tread made no sound. His breathing, as his weight, was calculated. The stars observed him, but they did not tell. The light air knew his whereabouts, yet without betrayal. The chill dawn gleamed at length between the trees, lighting the pale ashes of an extinguished fire, also of a bulky, obvious form beneath a blanket. The form moved clumsily. The cold was penetrating. And that bulky form moved because a dream had come to trouble it. A dark figure stole across its confused field of vision. The form started, but it did not wake. The figure spoke. "Take this," it whispered, handing a little stick curiously carved. "It is the totem of great Ishtat. In the valley, all memory of the white gods will leave you. Call upon Ishtat. Call upon him if you dare." And the dark figure glided away out of the dream and out of all remembrance. 2. The first thing Grimwood noticed when he woke was that Tushali was not there. No fire burned, no tea was ready. He felt exceedingly annoyed. He glared about him, then got up with a curse to make the fire. His mind seemed confused and troubled. At first he only realized one thing clearly. His guide had left him in the night. It was very cold. He lit the wood with difficulty and made his tea, and the actual world came gradually back to him. The Red Indian had gone. Perhaps the blow, perhaps the superstitious terror, perhaps both had driven him away. He was alone. That was the outstanding fact. For anything beyond outstanding facts, Grimwood felt little interest. Imaginative speculation was beyond his compass. Close to the brute creation, it seemed, his nature lay. It was while packing his blankets, he did it automatically, a dull, vicious resentment in him that his finger struck a bit of wood that he was about to throw away when its unusual shape caught his attention suddenly. His odd dream came back then. But was it a dream? The bit of wood was undoubtedly a totem stick. He examined it. He paid it more attention than he meant to, wished to, following with redskin faithfulness some code of his own, had left him the means of safety. He chuckled sourly, but thrust the stick inside his belt. "One never knows," he mumbled to himself. He faced the situation squarely. He was alone in the wilderness. His capable, experienced woodsman had deserted him. The situation was serious. What should he do? A weakling would certainly retrace his steps, following the track they had made, afraid to be left alone in this vast hinterland of pathless forest. But Grimwood was of another build. Alarmed he might be, but he would not give in. He had the defects of his own qualities. The brutality of his nature argued force. He was determined and a sportsman. He would go on. And 10 minutes after breakfast, having first made a cache of what provisions were left over, he was on his way, down across the ridge and into the mysterious valley, the Valley of the Beast. It looked, in the morning sunlight, entrancing. The trees closed in behind him, but he did not notice. It led him on. He followed the track of the gigantic moose he meant to kill, and the sweet, delicious sunshine helped him. The air was like wine, the seductive spoor of the great beast, with here and there a faint splash of blood on leaves or ground, lay forever just before his eyes. He found the valley, though the actual word did not occur to him, enticing. More and more he noticed the beauty, the desolate grandeur of the mighty spruce and hemlock, the splendor of the granite bluffs, which in places rose above the forest and caught the sun. The valley was deeper, vaster than he had imagined. He felt safe, at home in it, though, again, these actual terms did not occur to him. Here he could hide forever and find peace. He became aware of a new quality in the deep loneliness. The scenery, for the first time in his life, appealed to him, and the form of appeal was curious. He felt the comfort of it. For a man of his habit, this was odd, yet the new sensations stole over him so gently, their approach so gradual, that they were first recognized by his consciousness indirectly. They had already established themselves in him before he noticed them, and the indirectness took this form, that the passion of the chase gave place to an interest in the valley itself. The lust of the hunt, the fierce desire to find and kill, the keen wish, in a word, to see his quarry within range, to aim, to fire, to witness the natural consummation of the long expedition. These had all become measurably less, while the effect of the valley upon him had increased in strength. There was a welcome about it that he did not understand. The change was singular, yet, oddly enough, it did not occur to him as singular. It was unnatural, yet it did not strike him so. To a dull mind of his unobservant, unanalytical type, a change had to be marked and dramatic before he noticed it. Something in the nature of a shock must accompany it for him to recognize it had happened. And there had been no shock. The spoor of the great moose was much clearer, now that he caught up with the animal that had made it. The blood more frequent. He had noticed the spot where it had rested, its huge body leaving a marked imprint on the soft ground where it had reached up to eat the leaves of saplings here and there was also visible. He had come undoubtedly very near to it, and any minute now might see its great bulk within range of an easy shot. Yet his ardor had somehow lessened. He first realized this change in himself when it suddenly occurred to him that the animal itself had grown less cautious. It must scent him easily now, since a moose, its sight being indifferent, depends chiefly for its safety upon its unusually keen sense of smell, and the wind came from behind him. This now struck him as decidedly uncommon. The moose itself was obviously careless of his close approach. It felt no fear. It was this inexplicable alteration in the animal's behavior that made him recognize, at last, the alteration in his own. He had followed it now for a couple of hours and had descended some 800 to 1,000 feet. The trees were thinner and more sparsely placed. There were open, park-like places where silver birch, summit, and maple splashed their blazing colors, and a crystal stream broken by many waterfalls foamed past toward the bed of the great valley, yet another 1,000 feet below. By a quiet pool against some overarching rocks, the moose had evidently paused to drink, paused at its leisure, moreover. Grimwood, rising from a close examination of the direction the creature had taken after drinking, the hoof marks were fresh and very distinct in the marshy ground about the pool, looked suddenly straight into the great creature's eyes. It was not 20 yards from where he stood, yet he had been standing on that spot for at least 10 minutes, caught by the wonder and loneliness of the scene. The moose, therefore, had been close beside him all this time. It had been calmly drinking, undisturbed by his presence, unafraid. The shock came now, the shock that woke his heavy nature into realization. For some seconds, probably for minutes, he stood rooted to the ground, motionless, hardly breathing. He stared as though he saw a vision. The animal's head was lowered, but turned obliquely somewhat, so that the eyes, placed sideways in its great head, could see him properly. Its immense proboscis hung as though stuffed upon an English wall. He saw the forefeet planted wide apart, the slope of the enormous shoulders dropping back toward the fine hindquarters and lean flanks. It was a magnificent bull. The horns and head justified his wildest expectations. They were superb, a record specimen, and a phrase, where had he heard it? Ran vaguely as from far distance through his mind. The biggest moose in the world. There was the extraordinary fact, however, that he did not shoot, nor feel the wish to shoot. The familiar instinct, so strongly hitherto in his blood, made no sign. The desire to kill, apparently, had left him. To raise his rifle, aim, and fire had become suddenly an absolute impossibility. He did not move. The animal and the human stared into each other's eyes for a length of time whose interval he could not measure. Then came a soft noise close behind him. The rifle had slipped from his grasp and fallen with a thud into the mossy earth at his feet. And the moose, for the first time now, was moving. With slow, easy stride, its great weight causing a squelching sound as the feet drew out of the moist ground, it came towards him, the bulk of the shoulders giving it an appearance of swaying like a ship at sea. It reached his side. It almost touched him. The magnificent head bent low. The spread of the gigantic horns lay beneath his very eyes. He could have patted it, stroked it. He saw, with a touch of pity, that blood trickled from a sore in its left shoulder, matting the thick hair. It sniffed the fallen one.